Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nic Cage Fight Podcast, where, some days you're the Astro and some days you're the boy. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How are we feeling today, guys?
Confused by that intro. What do you mean by that?
It's a metaphor. Don't think too much about it.
I generally
some
don't.
of the movies we cover.
I'm thinking about how in the future robots are going to tell me when to call my loved ones, and I still won't because I have a phone phobia.
The funny thing is, that part cracked me up because it already happens. Google is like, call your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, no.
You're still like snooze, and then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I just missed it.
Called my dad on Father's Day at 8:30 at night.
That seems fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's not midnight.
Yeah, true.
You're a dad now. That's how the rules work. We are here today to talk about Astro Boy, a 2009 PG-rated film clocking in at a very acceptable 1 hour and 34 minutes. And I got to admit, this is the first time I saw this, and I think it was underrated because it was good.
Yeah, it's definitely the best children's movie we've watched on here so far.
Yeah,
correct.
I had put on here like worse things have become franchises. Like this, I feel like they could have made another 2 or 3 movies.
I mean, it's already a franchise. It's just not like a big franchise in America
they did
now.
make another one that most of the voice casting returned for, right?
No.
Wait, they actually made a second Astro Boy?
The Junk Pirates or something like that.
Huh. I'm going to have to look into that.
I don't think it got a wider theatrical release, but it did show up as repeats on a number of the voice actors. Now, I didn't pay attention to how high their billing was on this one, but a couple people came back together for it, and there might have also been a video game. So
there was definitely a video game. There was a Game Boy Advance and I think a PS2 game. The GBA one actually rules.
That might have predated this given the 2009, but it's also very hard to place myself in the timeline the older I get.
Oh, that's fair. I think, DS would have been out at that point.
Yeah, the DS came out in like 2009.
Okay, it was a DS game I'm thinking of. There was a Game Boy Advance game, though, that did whip ass.
Nice. So let's hop directly into housekeeping on this one. I think that's appropriate.
I'm not seeing any evidence that that's actually a sequel to this. What was the name of the so-called sequel?
It's Astro Boy the Something Pirates. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can locate it.
I see. That was
Junkyard Pirates.
That was a 3-minute short made for the DVD release.
Okay, my apologies. It did still have Kristen Bell, Alan Tudyk, Freddie Highmore, a couple other people.
Gotcha. That's why it wasn't popping up.
I didn't realize it was a short. So, director, we have David Bowers, whose CV on directing is a little bit short. He did Flushed Away, which was another animated or CGI kids movie, as far as I can tell. He did several Diary of a Wimpy Kid films, including
I
Roderick
saw Flushed
Rules.
Away. It was not awful.
Yeah, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules, Dog Days, and The Long Haul. Moving on to writers, since we just mentioned them, we'll mention David Bowers first, but certainly not foremost in regards to this particular IP. Bowers wrote for Flushed Away and one of the Diary of a Wimpy Kids films, The Long Haul specifically. So the source of the IP here is, and I'm going to butcher this, and Ryan is going to correct me, Osamu Tezuka.
You got the first one right, I'm pretty sure. Osamu Tezuka.
Yeah, it's that last syllable that's always
a little funky with Japanese. Yeah, I have a hard time keeping it in my head, like what the specific phenomes are supposed to be when they break it down.
Emphasis.
Like that.
It's the syllabic emphasis.
Right, and also like things run onto each other. Like I know I bring up pro wrestling a lot on here, but I was watching a pro wrestling event. There's a pro wrestler named his last name is Naito. but his first name is
Tetsuya.
Yes, and I always said it in
He's
my
my
head.
main man. I love that dude.
That always gets put on to the last name in my head, even though I know that's not correct.
I love that dude. He shows up in one of the Yakuza games as just a thug, and it's great.
He sure does. So does...
the Yakuza games are phenomenal.
Yes,
phenomenal,
I love them all.
So does Okada.
Yes, absolutely. There's one of the games has a mini game where you're just collecting Japanese pro wrestlers to fight in street fights as like a real-time strategy game. It rules.
Yeah, it fucks so hard.
Have to play that one. I'm not gonna lie. Like a Dragon got me real good because
the one with Ichiban, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love Ichiban. He's my boy.
So first of all, you put old school Final Fantasy style combat in something.
Dragon Quest.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm immediately interested, and then you add 5 million mini games, including an absurdly intricate business one, and I am about it.
Inexplicably, the business mini games are always the best in all the Yakuza games.
Fable,
wildly good.
In Fable 2, my favorite thing was just becoming a landlord.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Yep, I know. But it's
I wish he was back. I wish he was back.
I know, right to the gulag.
Look, in a game, fine. That's fine. No, in a game, it's fine. I'm gonna give you a pass on that one.
Oh, thank God. Oh man.
So Tezuka. Back to my mispronunciation. And I'm kind of an anime nerd to a certain extent, so my hubris here was like, I could pronounce this phonetically, and no. So hell of a CV here.
Oh, like 100,000 pages of drawn manga.
I'm gonna name some stuff, and then Ryan is probably gonna dunk on me. So obviously, Astro Boy, Dororo.
Yes, I love Dororo. Dororo is so good and so fucking wild. It's about this dude whose his father sacrificed almost all of his unborn son's body to 48 demons, and it's about that unborn son going around killing all those demons to get his body parts back.
That sounds fucking awesome.
It's awesome. It's so good.
Metropolis,
which is an adaptation of the Fritz Lang film, if I'm not mistaken. I could be. I haven't read it. I get that like vibe from seeing the anime, like clips of the anime.
Blackjack.
One of my favorites. In fact, I've got a volume of it right on my desk right here.
There you go. Do you have any of the young Blackjack?
I don't. Those haven't been reprinted in America in a while, so they're fucking expensive.
Okay, so Blackjack sounds like it was successful enough to do a couple of spin-offs, because I stopped naming Blackjack titles in here.
Yeah, that's a really good one. It's about an unlicensed doctor that does like underground surgeries.
Neat. Boku no Son Goku?
Yeah, that's a Journey to the West thing, like the Monkey King, basically what Dragon Ball is like a riff off of.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I included it. I looked up some of like the cover art and stuff like that. I was like, is this a ripoff of Dragon Ball? Is Dragon Ball a ripoff of this?
They're both based off of a piece of classic Chinese literature.
Cool. You know, because like how I tend to like get into anime is how I get into most things is I deep dive in and then forget about it in 2 months. I'm going to deep dive into this guy and just buy a bunch of his books and read them all and then forget about
them. You can just borrow some of mine. I have like probably 3 feet worth of his bibliography on my shelves.
Shit.
Listen, with all of our particular disorders towards hyperfixation for short periods of times, we have to just start sharing materials just to save each other money.
Otherwise, we're all going to go bankrupt.
Yes.
And I was saving this one because I know sort of tangentially there is discourse about this. Kimba the White Lion.
Oh, yeah. The one that idiots say was Lion King ripped off, even though if you actually read or watch Kimba the White Lion, they have almost nothing to do with each other than the fact that a lion's dad died once.
Okay. So I wasn't sure. I always thought Lion King was just a straight flat. Yeah. A flat ripoff of Hamlet, but just with lions and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it a ripoff. I would just call it a retelling, but I get what you're saying.
That's fine. We're not here to shit on the Lion King specifically. Tangentially.
I mean, we can.
No, but I had heard Kimber the White Lion previously in that nebulous.
Yeah, that one's got some like really sketchy shit going on in it. There's a lot of like, you know how early Mickey Mouse comic strips are banned by the Disney Corporation because of all the
Racism?
all of the yes, very bad racism. Kimber the White Lion has a lot of that shit going on in it.
Fair.
I like to think sometimes, like, what if Walt Disney was like still alive today? What would Disney World be like? It'd be very different.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. So we have one last writer to address on this, and I'm assuming he was punching up the comedy for an American audience because his name is Timothy Harris, and his history is
real good but very short.
Trading Places, Kindergarten Cop, Twins, and every Space Jam. From the original to all of the ripoffs, ripoffs, remakes, whatever, sequels. He was involved in the Space Jams, plural.
Wait, really?
He was also
I see him on the first.
Falling Down.
Wait. He was involved in Falling Down.
He was one of the producers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So producer credits can be misleading.
That is true.
As far as their level of involvement. That's fucking hilarious, though.
Yeah, somebody might have just owed him a favor.
Yeah, that's distinctly possible.
Or he might have just been trying to cash out on it.
I need to do a little digging. I got to find out about the Falling Down connection.
Oh shit!
Astro Boy.
Okay, I didn't realize that he did Space Jam: A New Legacy because like.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. It's because it was based on Space Jam. His writing credit from Space Jam.
Gotcha. Because I'm looking at just his writing credits, and he did. You know, he was not busy, but he was doing stuff in the 80s and early 90s. Did Space Jam and fucked off for 13 years. Did Astro Boy and has not done a thing since.
So here is the thing. In 2021, he did Teen Titans Go See Space Jam. Teen Titans comes up a fair bit in the housekeeping research. And also, we are set to cover a Teen Titans item at some point because I think Nic Cage is involved in one of them.
Yeah, he plays Superman.
Yes. So he did.
Which also means we have to watch The Flash at some point, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Even though they just made a empty-headed homunculus.
I know, but I think we have to count it.
I think we do.
Homunculi appearances still count as appearances. Also, by the way, a quick immediate retraction. Apparently, his involvement for Teen Titans Go See Space Jam is the fact that he wrote Space Jam.
Right.
But go for it. I'm not sure if he's a part of the Writers Guild, but I'm assuming with all of these attached subcredits that whatchamacallit Union is doing its job. So he might have not had any direct involvement with that Teen Titans bit.
I don't think he did because it says on the IMDb, it says written by Space Jam, which would which would essentially infer
one of the
that
funniest
it was...
fucking things
they might have just used clips from Space Jam and that's why he's credited.
And so he gets a fucking piece of that pie, as is appropriate. Okay, so that covers director and writers, and we can move on to the cast because there's going to be a fair amount of yelling about the cast. But you know what there's not usually yelling about? I'm kidding. I'm sorry. You know what there is usually yelling about nowadays? Goods and services. And whether or not they're woke. And these commercials are going to be either woke or not woke, depending on your personal preference. Honestly, we have no say in this, so who fucking knows? Spin the wheel. See if there's something for you.
Spin
is
the
the
wheel
algorithm
of
working?
Wow, I would have never guessed that InfoWars went woke. They had a black guy talking? That was weird.
Possibly. I honestly haven't checked in on them for a minute.
Was that too far? I think that may have been too far.
Nah.
No, that was just not far enough.
So let's follow up those ads of indeterminate quality with moving on to cast. So Man of the Hour every hour. Nic Cage voicing Dr. Tenma, known for being Nic Cage. Moving on from there, we have Freddie Highmore as Astro. And I was kind of excited slash apprehensive about seeing Freddie Highmore show up on these credits because he is experiencing a surge of popularity, good or bad. It's up to you to determine in the meme sphere currently. So Freddie Highmore is known for a number of things. Finding Neverland, the remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the 2005 version. He was in
one of the ugliest movies I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah.
Suck a dick, Tim Burton.
Neither here
He
nor there.
sucked.
If we want to rail on that movie, I say we move it behind the paywall, but I am down for doing that.
Yeah, I fucking hated that movie.
It was so bad. How do you take one of my favorite movies of all time and then make that damp fart?
I'll tell you, I'm perfectly happy recording a Patreon episode about that remake because when I saw it, I had smuggled in to the theater a flask, oversized flask filled with solid hard liquor. So I was shit faced the first time I saw it, and I was like, "Is this really happening?" But Freddie Highmore was also in Bates Motel, the syndicated televised prequel to Psycho,
which was not bad. I'll give him that. That was
it isn't bad, but I blame it not being bad primarily on Vera Farmiga. And I can't remember the name of the supporting actress who played sort of like a foible / love interest or friend to Freddie Highmore's Norman Bates.
I forget and I don't care to look it up.
It was good, and she's been in a number of things, but I can't remember the name of the actress, unfortunately.
Well, and his biggest thing is The Good Doctor, where he plays the good doctor.
Well. So the biggest thing currently, because people, the wider discourse has discovered the Good Doctor, which the entire premise of the show is an autistic guy is a surgeon, and his autism primarily manifests in being racist somehow, which is
I've never watched the show,
absurd.
so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. All right. So clips of that, we have to make a quick digression here because it is topical and relevant and timely. So clips of the Good Doctor, again, a just sort of mindless riding on the coattails of ER sort of sitcom primetime viewing show. As far as I can tell, clips of this show has hit the wider sphere of consciousness and conversation online. And out of context clips of this show, that's my only experience of it, so I'm predicating the statement based on that, are wild.
Yes,
super fucking wild. So there's like a clip that goes around of this one woman who is some type of Arabic, and autistic Good Doctor walks in and he's like, "Oh, so you're a terrorist?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "But you stole this chemical." And she's like, "To make a perfume." And he's like, "Not a bomb?" It's bizarre, like tone deafness off the charts.
See, I don't watch shit like this because it rots your brain, and that's why most people have rotted brains.
True, but the clip that went around and seared this into the frontal cortex of everybody who is even mildly online is a scene where he is crying and screaming because the head of surgery or whatever is like, sorry, take this with a grain of salt. This is my reading of it. He was like, "You were racist to a patient, so we're taking you off the surgery floor." And he is cry screaming, "I am a surgeon. I am a surgeon," over and over again. And people are like, "What the fuck is this show?"
Would you believe that this is a remake of a Korean show and it's been remade into 2 other languages as well?
Kind of. One of the American, not American, well, one of the producers is an actor in the show.
It's the doctor that you just talked about.
Yes, the guy he's
the exact same guy.
Yeah. So I'm not super surprised just because of the sort of information I've received through osmosis. I understand. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I found it, baby.
We're going to get a copyright strike for this one, baby.
I told you.
I don't even care.
His line when he comes in is, "You're a terrorist, aren't you?" It's absurd. It's arguably ableist to a certain extent.
Oh, there's no arguing that. This is absolutely ableist.
All right.
I agree.
This is the one piece of media I could point to unequivocally and be like, that's what ableism is, baby.
My only exposure to this show has been from being online, and I've learned through trial and error to couch my statements when that's my exposure to a topic.
All right, let's play this, and then we have to move on. I feel.
All right, do it.
All right, here we go.
You're a terrorist, aren't you?
My brother works for a drug company. They use dimethyl sulfate to make one of their medications. He stole some from me.
So you could make a chemical weapon.
So I could make perfume. Smell that.
Don't do it. You're gonna die.
The little wafting that he does, Jesus Christ. I knew the show was bad, but my God, this sucks.
It's such an absurd infantilization embedded in the portrayal of autistic people that is just
I loved it.
Absurd.
Because he's doing like the okay, how do autistic people act? Oh, they like sway back and forth and talk monotone, right? Like that's every autistic person, right?
Everyone you've seen on TV, definitely.
Hey, wait, I'm gonna quibble with that real quick. And
most of them, all right.
Maybe put a target on myself for canceling. In my opinion, the best recent portrayal of autistic tendencies in major film or TV is Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, that's fair.
Okay, I was expecting a way worse answer.
He doesn't understand nuance. That's fair.
Yeah.
Metaphors kind of go. He takes things very, very literally, so on and so forth. That's just my personal take on it.
Yeah, he was. Fuck. What were those books we used to read when we were like 5 or 6?
Oh,
like Amelia something, and she didn't understand
Amelia
like,
Bedelia. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Animorphs was a better kid's book.
Animorphs was a better kid's book.
I'm
Animorphs
sorry,
had genocide.
Yeah, if you read Animorph books when you were a kid, you grew up to be an anti-imperialist, sort of just in general.
Yeah.
To this day, one of the best depictions of the horrors of war in literature that I can think of off the top of my head, which is absurd, facially absurd. But as an adult, if that comment intrigues you, go back and read them. You're gonna be like, "Holy shit!"
Shout out to K.A. Applegate.
Fuck yeah!
If you're listening, get on the show.
Oh, shout out to a real one.
Yeah.
K.A. Applegate remains one of my favorite authors. So moving on housekeeping, because we have to. Kristen Bell voices Cora. Kristen Bell, known for primarily and originally Veronica Mars, but also after that Frozen, The Good Place, Party Down, because I will always reference Party Down.
As you should.
Party Down.
And The Disaster Artist. Throw it out there.
This gets to be the second time I bring up this show. She was in that fucking stupid HBO show I really like called Lie to Me. She was one of the liars.
Nice.
Along
I'll have
with
to check it out at some point.
Along with Don Cheadle, Ben Schwartz, and some other guy who I don't remember.
All right, now I'm intrigued. I'm gonna have to check that out. So next up, we have Charlize Theron as the Our Friends narrator. Charlize Theron, known from a number of things. Just to shout out some of my personal favorites: Monster, Mad Max Fury Road, Atomic Blonde, Prometheus. Yeah, I like Prometheus. Aeon Flux, and then The Old Guard and Hancock. Toss them in the mix.
She's in the new Fast and Furious movies too.
I knew you were going to mention those, which is why I didn't write them down.
Glad you mentioned Aeon Flux. I actually really liked that, even though it does not hold a candle to the cartoon.
Sure, absolutely. But still, we got live action Aeon Flux at a time where we should never have expected to get a live action Aeon Flux.
Exactly.
So,
not enough weird eye stuff in the live action for my taste.
So from here, things get a little bit muddled. There are a lot of semi-cameo voice acting spots in this film, but they all bear mentioning in no particular order. Don't read into this. So Ryan Stiles shows up as Mr. Mustachio. Ryan Stiles being in Hot Shots Part 2, Weird Science, Reno 911, the Whose Line Is It Anyway, and more recently Ted Lasso.
Well, okay, so you add that in, but as somebody who watches Ted Lasso religiously, his face did not show up. He had 2 lines in it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, he was like he played in like an international like Dutch announcer where him and the guy who played Oswald Lee Harvey in the Drew Carey show, like his friend,
Oh,
were like
the
just
guy
riffing off of each
yeah,
other
yeah.
for like
The
for
guy
like
that's in
45
Office
seconds.
Space.
Yes. Yeah.
So next up, we have Eugene Levy as Orin. Eugene Levy, known
I know him from
most-
Christopher Guest movies.
Yes,
Okay.
same.
Well, I was gonna say the American Pie franchise is probably his most widely recognized role. Real heads will know him from Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, Waiting for Guffman, and most recently Schitt's Creek.
I was about to say, I
Don't
think
forget about
most people-
SCTV.
True.
Yeah.
I was trying to go less obscure because I wanted people to
That's not
recognize.
obscure. That had like 73 episodes. It lasted like 5 fucking years.
I'm not arguing. What were those years?
1976 to 1981.
Okay, so there you go.
It was also in
and-
heavy
and-
metal.
And I was about to say, I think that most people just know him from Schitt's Creek
Oh,
at
wait,
this point.
it
I think that's
lasted-
probably
84, actually.
Oh,
Ooh.
there you go.
Oh, there I go.
So every listener who's older than every host of this podcast, there's your reference.
He was on 2
That's just
episodes
for
of
you.
Duckman.
So next up, we have Donald Sutherland, which I was honestly a little surprised by.
he was so good in this. He was so
as-
fucking
He
good.
was really good. That man knows how to cash a check.
As President Stone, which I loved, was super close to President Snow from one of his more recent and maybe widely known roles. Donald Sutherland has been in a number of things, including Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Pride and Prejudice, The Hunger Games, The Mechanic, Lord of War, because I had to shout out another Cage joint.
Wasn't he
and the
also in
Italian Job.
Rumblefish?
Okay, that you got to specify which mechanic that is, because it's not the Charles Bronson one, which is the good mechanic.
Correct.
That's the
Correct.
Jason Statham.
Statham one.
Yes.
Yep.
But wait, wasn't he also in
Did you mention
Rumblefish?
MASH?
I did not mention
He
that.
was in MASH. He was in Die Die My Darling. This man's been in movies since like 60.
Yeah, he's Donald Sutherland. The only people I need to explain Donald Sutherland to are our younger viewers.
He's John Clute in Clute.
Include.
In Clute.
And no, I was thinking of Kiefer Sutherland. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
That's it's completely different Sutherland.
Yeah, I know.
Not a bad one, but still
No,
completely
No,
different.
just completely different. Because I was like, wait,
That's a
wasn't he also in
Sutherland that was in
Rumblefish?
Twin
That's
Peaks.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, no,
So
you're
next up-
thinking of the Sutherland that was in Twin Peaks.
Yes, I was.
So next up, we have another veteran of the pod, Bill Nighy, as Dr. Elephant. Bill Nighy has been in Love Actually, Pirates of the Caribbean, Shaun of the Dead, Detective Pikachu, G-Force, and Hot Fuzz, the Underworld movies. You know who he is. You've seen him for sure.
I love
Yes.
his bit in Hot Fuzz. It's so good.
He's hilarious.
His bit in Shaun of the Dead is good too.
Yes, he's great in both of those movies, both of the Edgar Wright good Cornetto trilogy movies.
The heel spin in Shaun of the Dead gets me every time. I've seen that movie 100 times, but when his back is to the camera and he does a perfect heel turn and is like Sean, it gets me every
Yeah.
fucking time. I don't know why. Next up, we've David Alan Grier as Mr. Squirt. David Alan Grier, known from a number of things. It was a little bit tough to pick. So Joe Pickett, The Muppets Wizard of Oz, because we always mention Muppets movies.
Okay, that was going to be my show.
I knew
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna call on the Muppets. I always include the Muppets. I search for Muppets in the filmography just in case.
It is constantly in his fine field.
Fair.
Yep.
Fair.
He was in The Woodsman. He was in the original Robin Williams Jumanji, and he was also in Blank Man, which I never get an opportunity to shout out Blank Man.
You gotta shout
I
out
like
Blank
Man's
Man.
so good.
I know.
I'm also going to shout out McHale's Navy because it's a bad
that
movie
is a
that's
good
fucking
one.
hilarious.
It is a bad movie. It is very funny though. I'll shout out Tales from the Hood because that's a pretty good anthology flick, and I like
Yeah,
anthology
yeah.
movies.
So next up we have Alan Tudyk
I think so. Yeah, I don't think I've ever
as
heard that man's name
I've
spoken out
I've
loud.
only ever called him Steve the Pirate.
Fair.
correct. And he voices Mr. Squeegee. He was in Rogue One, Firefly, probably most famously, but also A Knight's Tale, iRobot, Encanto, Doom Patrol, since it came up in a previous episode, and Dodgeball, a true underdog tale. He was also in one of the Transformers. I can't remember which one.
He's in a lot of Disney shit nowadays too. Did you say Frozen? I was not paying attention.
I missed Frozen. I
Because
included
he was in
Encanto.
he was in Frozen, Big Hero 6, Moana.
was.
Like, good for you, man. Cash that fucking check.
And so our two, I can't even call them in good conscience honorable mentions. Nathan Lane, the
He
voices
should have been
Ham-Egg.
higher on the credits. He's a major ass character.
I
in this.
agree. I don't disagree.
and he's
in the
Nathan
slightest.
fucking Lane.
He is Nathan fucking Lane, who was in Mouse Hunt, the 2000.
Oh, that was gonna be my dark horse. Damn it.
That's not a
think
dark
I
horse
was gonna
movie.
not mention Mouse Hunt. Come on.
fair.
He was in The Producers, The Lion King, and most recently, Beau is Afraid. I had to.
Oh, you didn't mention Birdcage.
Birdcage.
I was about to say Birdcage.
I'm
Birdcage.
sorry. I had to pick and choose, so I tried to snag a little bit from everywhere with him.
All right, fair.
Okay, so here is my dark horse that you don't remember him from, but he was one of the good parts of this not very good movie. Austin Powers Goldmember.
I don't remember him in that.
He played like a disco guy who wouldn't stop dancing when like things were like
Oh, there it is, Mysterious Disco
there
Man.
was like a gunfight going
Mr.
on, but he was
Disco
still
Man.
just dancing.
I'm sorry.
That
I
movie was
unironically enjoy the Austin Powers films.
So do
Oh
I.
no,
They're great.
I love the first one is still I watch it every month. The second one, I'll watch it if I see it. The third one, I will skip to the 4 scenes that I enjoy, which is mostly the disco guy part, the smoking a pancake, and basically
Bong
the
in the
rest of the
Woods?
movie, but I'll just fast forward through the Beyonce scenes because she's really bad in it.
Invite me to your monthly watch party of the first one. I will come
first one
dressed
is
up.
a perfect film. It's
Yeah,
just,
it is.
what if we string a bunch of bad bits together in a way that actually makes a movie? It somehow works perfectly.
And last on my housekeeping, everybody can start shouting after this. Got to give a shout out to Two Line Samuel L. Jackson as Zog, known from being a badass motherfucker. If you don't know who Samuel L. Jackson is, we can't help you.
Yeah, I'll throw in Ellie Fanning was in this. She plays Grace.
There you go.
Who's like kind of a little annoying chick running around. Plays her part well. You know,
Grace
her.
is fucking hilarious in this film, by
Yeah.
the way.
You know her from a bunch of different stuff. I can't think of anything. I just saw them. I'm just like, I know who that is.
Wait, Ellie Fanning, is that sister to Dakota Fanning?
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah, she has been in a number of things that I have absolutely enjoyed. She was in Super 8. I'm not sure if it was this or another, if it was her or another Fanning's sister was in one of my favorite episodes of Law and Order SVU as an insane kid.
Yes. She's in an episode, ironically, called Cage.
Yup. There you go. That's the shout out there.
There you
Also,
go.
one of my favorite episodes of Law and Order SVU. Go check it out.
Because I'm looking, I'm like, I see CSI Miami, I see CSI New York. There it is.
Yep. Yeah, no, good shout out. Any other shouts that we need to have for housekeeping?
Did we mention Zog's voice actor?
Samuel L. Jackson, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, we did Samuel L. Jackson. Did we
Two
mention
lines.
how
We got to
he-
give him credit.
Did we mention how he loves hentai?
No, we did not. He likes hentai, which if you want to judge people, go ahead and judge Samuel L. Jackson. I implore you to do that to his face.
Yeah, I dare you.
I dare you.
Yeah, I'll give one more shout out to D. Bradley Baker, who is an actual voice actor. He did the voice of Trash Can, which is a mechanical dog, which I wrote a line on him. Oh, here it is. My quote for this guy, 'cause I was just kind of taking notes, was I love this robot dog, and if anything happens to them, I will kill everyone and then myself.
I did like the little robot dog. It was very good.
Beautiful. God damn. The power of Rich taking notes, people. Take some notes on that.
Yeah. I just kind of
fantastic.
write what comes in my head.
Good.
Which I'll just be shouting out as we get to them. They're in
Good.
order, don't worry.
Ryan, anybody we failed to mention that you feel was an egregious oversight?
No, I think we hit them all.
All right, there you go. Apologies to anybody we didn't touch on. Your contribution is greatly appreciated.
I mean, I'm double checking right now because there's an older guy that's on this list, and I think I might recognize him. Nope, he's been in a bunch of like one episode TV shits.
All right, in that case, I think it's a perfect time for our second set of ads. Come out of nowhere directly after you've cleaned the house. Listen to them. They might be bad. They might be good. That is the roulette wheel of advertising.
So, were they good? Were they bad? Let us know on our Twitter and Patreon.
Oh shit! I did find a Cage connection. Newell Alexander apparently played Alan Calhoun in Zandali, and in this movie he plays General Heckler.
General Heckler
General
as like
Heckler.
a military title.
Yes,
or...
as in a military title, not like someone who is generally heckling.
Full marks for the character name there. I love the shit out of that. Okay, so we gotta sprint here. Let's get into the plot. So
we don't need a sprint. It's gonna take what it takes. It's fine.
It is gonna take what it takes. So we open on what is essentially an educational video being narrated. And so we open on Metro City and we have a narrator explaining about how nice it is and how it came to be. So when the surface of the planet Earth got super polluted, a group of individuals decided to make a floating city.
Now, I would like to point out that this is a major divergence from Astro Boy lore. There is not a floating city separate from Earth in most other versions of Astro Boy. This is actually more influenced by Battle Angel Alita.
Oh, so they didn't do like a hate crime against poor people. Okay.
No, they didn't. They did in Battle Angel Alita 100%.
Okay.
Not in the original Astro Boy.
I'm glad you mentioned one of my favorite underappreciated films specifically. IPs in general is
Gotta let you borrow the manga. It's so good.
Yep. Battle Angel Alita, fantastic. Because in my notes I wrote, oh, they did a BioShock.
They did do a BioShock. Yeah, my next note on here is kind of like space communism, but only if they achieved it through class war.
Yeah, no, it's Randian for sure in its origins. So this floating city is created and they've lost touch with the people on the ground. And they go over how robots are utilized to take care of a bunch of things to make people's lives easier and also to do the things that people don't want to do.
Like clean out your lungs, apparently.
Now, this part is demonstrated amazingly, in my opinion. Like, they had to have some self-awareness of what their critique was here. I don't think it necessarily holds through to all of the threads of the film, but whoever was in charge of, make the school video did know what they were doing. So they have a street cleaning robot who goes after somebody throws like their big gulp out of their window and sweeps it up and immediately gets pancaked by a car, like nuts and bolts flying across the screen. And they're like, and don't worry about that, because immediately in the scene, another street cleaning robot appears to sweep up the carcass of his colleague.
So I actually have a theory on this. I think that when they wrote this, they were going to shoot for a PG-13 rating, and have, just because like there are certain scenes in this movie, and we'll get to them when we get to them, that are like more like adult themed, not like how Pixar does it, where there's kind of like little winks and nods as adult jokes, but is like full on like mature themes. And then the the producers or whatever were just like, yeah, we'd make more money if we just marketed it to kids.
So I agree with you, and this is actually a pretty good time to just talk about this generally in this film. We were talking before we started recording where this is on its surface a kids film, but there are some deeper stream themes and ideas that are pretty mature when looked at. And I think Rich mentioned it as like sanding off the sharp edges, and I compared it to nails and bits of glass in a bowl of oatmeal, where they didn't think to sanitize some of this stuff that is in otherwise what is ostensibly a kids movie. So yeah, you have workers cleaning up bits of dead bodies of their kind, and it's just sort of there and not further commented upon, which is crazy. Might also be one of the reasons why I honestly really like this kids movie.
Yeah, I generally have absolutely no tolerance for stuff that is 100% marketed towards children, which I think this movie kind of was at its time, but this one really did kind of catch me off guard. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I also have a general proclivity towards liking Astro Boy just because I'm an Osamu Tezuka stan, but like, you know,
it's understandable, and the like incredibly like diabetically saturating shit just doesn't do it for me. But this was one of those things where like they had elements and you're like, how did this make it into the final cut?
I'm glad it did. It's a better movie for it.
It's not explicitly brutal necessarily, but when you examine it for more than the second of screen time it's given, you're like, God damn, this is dark.
Yeah. If they had sanitized it anymore, it wouldn't be Astro Boy anymore. One of the big reasons why Astro Boy worked so well as an export from Japan was because the stories, yes, they were all that Atom Age, cool sci-fi action, but they also had surprisingly complex theming, even back in the 60s when the original show was airing in the US.
Well, good for this movie to have kept some of that shit in. It's odd, it sticks out if you're watching it with a critical eye or an even halfway critical eye, but I think it's a better movie because of it. So
I agree with you.
This is the point in the film where we are informed as the viewer that this is an instructional video shown to a classroom. Robots are created and destroyed constantly, and Metro City just dumps the carcasses over the edge onto the surface that they don't care about,
not our problem,
or have any familiarity with. So Toby is a student in this class.
I'm gonna shout out every time there's a naming difference between the Japanese and American versions. His name's Tobio originally.
Tracks.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see where they got point A to point
and
B.
In the 1960s English dub, he was known as Astor.
So they went with his later naming convention and just put a twist on that.
Correct.
It's fine. I get the logic behind those decisions to a certain extent, but you know, it is what it is when you're dealing with translations. So Toby is the son of Dr. Tenma, who is one of the load-bearing linchpins in the economy of Metro City, as far as making innovations and headway in the robots that they create. So a pop quiz is inflicted on the class, and Toby finishes his pop quiz way before anybody else, turns it in and leaves. And it's clear this is a pattern, and he is resented to some degree on this, because as he walks out the door, notebooks and pens and pencils are thrown at it as it closes, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, they're all calling him a nerd.
Yeah, he is a fucking nerd. But then he gets into a car driven by a robot driver where the hologram of his father pops up. This is Cage. Cage plays Dr. Tenma. His dad is clearly absentee and has very high standards for Toby. In fact, he has to blow off a promise to take Toby to some symposium in order to go to the unveiling of a new peacekeeper robot at the Ministry of Science that the president is attending.
Yeah, and I like how adults just parent their kids as a fucking hologram. like everything is shown, like it's like almost Jetsons-y that like everything is automated, but like I guess there's still labor to be done and too much that like parents are just like, oh hey, I'm a hologram, you're not ever going to touch me.
You
That's
know what's
healthy
really
for children.
funny is, and I'm not necessarily confident, but I feel like there's probably some inspiration drawn from this for the IP that I'm about to mention. Any older heads who are fans of Invader Zim back in the day,
Yeah.
this is very much a similar parent-child dynamic with Dib and oh shit, what was his dad's name? I can't
It has been
remember.
20 years since I watched Invader Zim.
It has been a long time. But Dib and his dad, who is like a super scientist, and again, always communicated with his kids through robots or holograms or some shit like that, right?
Look, the most
Professor Membrane, by the way.
Professor Membrane.
The most I remember about Invader Zim at this point is the Penguin of Doom copy pasta.
Fair.
Yep.
I was a big fan back in the day. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed Jonan Vasquez's works. Still have his comics on my bookshelf to this day.
Nice.
You gotta.
Yeah,
I think I only have Squee floating around. I don't know what happened to
Squee
my
was a
Johnny
good
the
one.
Homicidal Maniac.
Johnny was much more dark.
Self-indulgent and not great on a reread.
I haven't reread it in a minute. I've got to pull it and read it again.
It is 100% an artist who doesn't know what to do with himself, putting it all there on the page for worse. I would not say for better or worse, just for worse.
It's just bad.
I mean, the art is cool. I do like the way he draws. I do not like the way he tells stories or really any of his content. It's self-indulgent. It's boring. It's listening to a 14-year-old who just learned what goth people are try to pretend that they're a goth person.
Huh.
Which is why it fucking resonated with me as a fucking teenager.
Yeah.
If you're an angsty teen, that might be one of those relics you want to dredge up from the past, because I remember it hitting pretty hard back then.
Not so much once you have a mortgage.
Real quick, before we get into the next scene, my next note on here is just all the characters are kind of drawn the way they look in real life. So Nic Cage just looks like Nic Cage if his nose was the size of his Italian ancestry.
He does have a...
He's got a big old nose, but that just comes down to it being pretty on model for how Tezuka draws Tenma.
Okay.
He has like the biggest soul patch, like just
it's the Daisuke Jigen beard from Lupin.
Yeah, just the chin beard.
Yeah.
Very peculiar style of facial hair. So Toby, of course, being a child genius, reprograms his driver bot to take him to the ministry instead, because he's really interested in seeing the unveiling of the Peacekeeper. So Toby runs up as Dr. Tenma is talking to the president on the way to the demonstration. Tenma is annoyed, but the president says to let him tag along. Unfortunately, the president asks Toby a question, and Toby responds very intellectually, to which the president responds, nobody likes a smart aleck or something along those lines, and is like, take him somewhere safe for the demonstration.
Yeah, he says you can view this the same time everybody else does on the 7:00 news.
Yeah. So
my only note on this is Toby's smarter than the military man, so of course he gets taken away.
He is the literal president.
I know, but for the first half of my notes, I just call him military man.
It's fair. He's a very militaristic presidential candidate, current president, and also presidential candidate in the upcoming elections. So in the demonstration, another scientist who works at the ministry, Dr. Elefun, is giving a talk on a sustainable energy source that they discovered. This is the blue energy. And he talks about how this blue energy could power a cleanup of the entirety of the surface of Earth. But its production also creates red energy that is unstable and dangerous.
Oh, yeah. So he wants to help people that are like not a part of the oligarchy. So he's just going to get put right into a gulag.
Directly into
work
the corner.
camp. Work camp, baby. You're about to go there.
So the president and his goons enter in the middle of this conversation and they confiscate both energy sources. Toby is placed in a storage closet by one of the president's literally faceless goons, but he pickpockets a key off the guard. Elephant is arguing with Tenma about the use of the energy types he discovered for the president's wishes. Tenma explains that they need military contracts so they can continue their research. So they go on with the Peacekeeper demonstration.
And wait, this part has one of my favorite lines too, which is they're talking about like the blue and red energies, and he's like, well, what about the red one? And the guy is telling him it's like it's too chaotic, we can't use it. And he's like, yeah, but women love the color red, and it's an election year. They could really do well with the women voters.
Yeah.
Yeah, polls are showing. So they go to load the blue core, which is described as pure positive energy, into the Peacekeeper, but the president asks to load the red core instead. The scientists in the room object, but the president takes over himself and loads the red core into this Peacekeeper robot. Toby, meanwhile, breaks out of his storage closet and sneaks into the demonstration room as the Peacekeeper goes to work in the demonstration, blowing up a number of battle drones that they deploy against it. They're all vanquished, some of which are absorbed into the body of the Peacekeeper itself, which everybody comments on to a certain degree. But when all of the drones are vanquished, the Peacekeeper turns to attack the president and the scientists. So they drop a safety door, but unfortunately, Toby is trapped on the other side with the Peacekeeper robot itself. The Peacekeeper robot unleashes this energy blast, which seems, for all intents and purposes, to incinerate Toby completely. All of his organic material, all that's left is the baseball cap that he was wearing.
So we have a main character death like 10 minutes into this film. Was not expecting
Yeah,
this.
that kid turned into a thin mist of blood.
Yeah, which is fucking dark. So the Peacekeeper robot then proceeds to melt a hole in the blast shield, and Dr. Elephant pulls a plug with blue energy coursing through it and stabs the Peacekeeper with it, rendering it inert.
Now here's a name difference. So his real name is Dr. Pachydermis Elephant in all American versions of Astro Boy. In Japanese, he's Dr. Ochonomazu.
Does that translate into elephant?
No, it translates to warm tea.
Why did they go heavy elephant theme?
Big nose.
Gotcha.
Well, I guess
Okay.
it couldn't go with a tea element.
Yeah, because Americans don't drink tea at the same rate that like you do in Japan or England or India or the majority of the rest of the world.
Well, it could have been worse. The naming convention could have been worse on translation. So with the Peacekeeper disabled, Tenma blames himself for the death of Toby, kind of correctly, man. I'm sorry. You're selling out your values for a paycheck. I understand the moral gray area, but your guilt is probably well-founded in this circumstance.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So from here, Tenma goes kind of fucking crazy. He's starting on working on blueprints of a robot that looks exactly like Toby. He's disassembling missiles to make the body. And then he pulls a hair that is stuck in Toby's hat to scan his DNA, which is demonstrated with like memories that Toby had. So he loads the DNA. I'm sorry, like my notes get a little specific here. So we're assuming that DNA contains some sort of mimetic memory of the
He's working on Dune rules. He's trying to create a Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah, listen, I was
There you
just
go.
saying it's general future rules. Like, sure, I can suspend my disbelief enough that like they have some sort of technology that can extract memories.
See, it's funny. My primary IP that I think back to on this one is the expanded elements of Final Fantasy VII, where mimetic memory is a key element to the storyline specifically.
I think of the Venture Brothers, where they have the beds that are also their schools that scan their minds for memories every night when they go to sleep, so that every time they die in some horrible accident, they could be recloned by the bad.
See, Venture Brothers is a really good example of how to crib from other IPs personally, but that is a discussion for another time. Venture Brothers, though, solid call out. I like that. So Toby's, again, genetic mimic memory is added into the robot body. And then we cut to Dr. Elephant arriving to the lab for work. Tenma explains to Elephant what he's done, essentially making a robot that has the most complex defense systems ever created.
He made a Mega Man.
Yeah, he made Mega Man. It's Mega Man, but with childhood trauma. Elephant turns over the blue energy core that he brought at Tenma's request, which is then loaded into the Toby bot, and they power him up.
And now, wouldn't this scene would have been the scene for an unhinged Nic Cage rant, but we just didn't get it, which I'm very upset about.
They probably recorded it and then cut it because it's a fucking PG film.
That's exactly what I put. My note is unhinged Nic Cage would have been perfect in the new boy scene, but I guess you can't get nuts in a PG movie.
Yeah, he does seem kind of sedate in this.
I'm sorry, if we could pull it off with our combined technical knowledge, what we should do is take that scene and cut over whatever Tenma's dialogue is with the 211 audio.
My son!
He's my son! He was my son!
I can definitely do that, but I'm definitely going to add in the piss bloodline as well.
Yes, please do.
Please
appreciate
do that.
that.
We'll upload it to the YouTube and get 1 million completely unrelated hits.
Have
Yeah,
you
why don't
ever
you just-
pissed blood?
Throw in a, you want me to just bottle up these emotions, just throw them away?
Oh my God. We have the
Deepfake a
technology
fucking, better version of Astro
to
Boy.
rebuild this scene, make it stronger, faster.
But anyway, we're also like about an hour in.
Yep.
So,
That is where I was going to cut.
Okay, all right. But then we're all on the same page here.
Yep. Toby bot coming to life. That's a cliffhanger. Okay.
The Toby Bot 3000.
Yeah. Dr. Tenma trying to make up for his absenteeism as a father and his culpability in the death of his son.
Speaking of absentee, I was going to say, speaking of absentee fathers, let us be your fathers, and here's our Twitter.
There you go. At cagefight_pod.
But you were saying something.
Yeah. No. I just realized there is no mention of a mother for Toby.
No,
None whatsoever.
it's the future. You don't need women anymore. You can suck your own dick.
Which raises insane implications if Toby was like just a clone of Tenma, like raised from a child. I have no idea. I don't have interaction with the source material, so I don't know.
I
but
don't
it just
ever remember there being a mention of a mother, but I also do not remember there being mention of cloning in reference to Tobio's parentage.
awesome. That leaves it up to the viewer. I'm a big fan of those. Ask yourself some weird existential questions about that.
I'm going with it was the Fallout 3 opening, which is, the mother is absolutely fine having a conversation, then just suddenly dies.
Yep. I mean, that is tropish. So I'm going to stick with clone, which honestly opens a bigger can of worms to the character of Dr. Tenma. Rich, what's our Patreon again?
Patreon.com/Nic Cage Fight. Hey, everybody, we were actually having a conversation about recording actual Patreon stuff like in the next week. So you get
maybe we do a Patreon episode where I make you guys watch like 3 episodes of classic Astro Boy and we talk about
yeah.
Ooh.
Let's actually that's the Patreon.
I'll pick a 1963 episode, a 1980 episode, and a 2003 episode for us.
Done. I'm in it.
Goddamn, I honestly am intrigued by the juxtaposition of those timelines one after another.
The animation difference is wild if you jump from one to the other, because I did watch a couple of clips before we started today just to kind of remind myself what they looked like.
See, it's not even the animation part that gets me. I want to see the tonal shifts of the passage of time on the stories they're telling. That, to me, seems like it would be interesting to dissect.
You know what? Maybe I can find 3 episodes that are adapting the same story from the manga at the 3 different series that they did.
That
Because
would be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see what I can find.
Unless they stick to the script real hard, in which case it'll be dull.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But if there's some variation, we could definitely dig into that.
I'm about
right.
it.
So join us next time for the thrilling conclusion of Astro Boy, an honestly delightful gem that we stumbled across that I'm not sure that I would have seen otherwise, except for going through the filmography of Nic Cage on this podcast. Which, again, to me, this is one of the this is pretty good. And I wouldn't have seen it if I wasn't doing a hyper fixated drill down on a very specific thing. So, as we said,
Just like Xandali.
oh yeah, and Xandali.
Or Between Worlds.
Just like Xandali. Or Between Worlds. I don't know if I would have seen that without
Between
doing
Worlds,
the podcast.
Drive Angry, Kill Chain. We have a number of personal favorites we're collecting. Maybe when we finish the run of Nic Cage's filmography, I'll get us weird, individualized charm bracelets to commemorate this. That would be bizarre enough.
I don't know how you represent cocaine and olive oil in a charm.
Just a weird, gooey pile. I just got to find the right jeweler to cast those for us.
Oh, I have a jeweler who will do that. All you have to do is go into Philadelphia and say that you're a crazy 76ers fan. He will do anything for you.
There you go. So in the meantime, follow us on the aforementioned social media. We're happy to interact with you and are eager to hear your opinions on stuff like this. So until next time, as always, thank you for tuning in, and we appreciate you.